welcome to the second part in this series on gender in World of Warcraft. This episode is going to specifically focus on PvP and gender relations in player versus player combat. This is, if you watched the first video, you know this is Backstabzer. He is a troll rogue. He's getting a little more crazy looking as time goes on. He's unfortunately not going to be featured much in this video, just sort of an intro and outro, because I had to do something completely different for this video. He will be back in the third video, I promise you. For this video, I wanted to study something that I started to observe last time, which is that females tend to die more often in battlegrounds than males. I went to the forums, I talked to some people, and it seems the best way for me to try and research this was to actually get in there myself and test it out in some sort of controlled conditions. So I did. I created two characters. They are basically the same characters, except that their genders are different, and I put them through a slew of battlegrounds. 10 battlegrounds total, 5 battlegrounds for each gender. The goal being to see which one of them died more. I started doing that research with the male character and then went back and started over because I had to change two things. One of which is now in this final research, you'll see that it's not just them, the characters I'm playing, it's everyone, so that's about 200 players. So it's a much larger data pool, and both of these characters are healers, which if you watch the last video, you'll understand I set up as maybe something that's important because females do tend to be healers, or female avatars do rather. I should clarify that. This is all avatars, not actual genders. So these are the characters. This is Jalius. He's a level 10 Draenei Paladin. He is a Holy Paladin, which means he is a healer, and he is geared completely in quest gear. This is his counterpart, Jalia. Again, same exact armor, same exact character, level 10, Draenei, Paladin, Holy Paladin, healer. The only difference between these two, they have the same skin color, the same hair color, almost the same names. The only thing that is different between them is their gender. This is just a little segment showing you her armor set. It's all quest gear, and Jalius's armor as well, all quest gear. They have, I believe they have equivalent armor, if not the exact same. This is their spellbook, her spellbook rather. Shows you all her current abilities at her current level, which is 10. And these abilities are shared by Jalius, as you will see soon, the exact same abilities. And this is her talent tree, which sort of enhances your abilities and gives you new ones. Again, same exact abilities shared by Jalius. And just to show you that, here is Jalius. As I'm sort of scrolling over his, and you can see it, I sort of just want to explain what I'm after here and the results that I found and how they're going to be broken down. The results are broken down statistically, so at the end of this video there's going to be some graphs that are going to plot all this. Again, this is about 200 characters we're dealing with, so there's a lot of data to throw up on a single graph, so there's all cluster plots, but I'll explain what each graph means and sort of what I think it means beyond just the numbers, what it indicates in terms of trends and battlegrounds. So this is the meat and potatoes. This is showing you how I determine the genders of players on the alliance side, or whatever side you're on. You can just inspect people of your faction and look at their picture, and as I am, I'm writing down if they're male or female. For every battleground I did this, and if they're not of your faction, you can go to worldofwarcraft.com's armory, type in their name, and you'll get a page like this. This is Backstabzer's page. It shows you an image of the toons, so you can just write down their gender from there, and that's what I did for all the Horde players. So this is the beginning of Jalia's first battleground. You'll notice that she's sort of alone. There's a smattering of people around her. This is not something that I could record statistically, but it is a trend I noticed, that she tended to be left by her teammates a lot more often. Here they're still sort of running in the same direction, but not for long. People just run by her. There's her first achievement. This, again, not something I could record other than in video. And it's there, but I didn't want to show you hours and hours and hours of video. Trust me, this happens, and you're about to see in Jalius's beginning video that the exact opposite tends to happen with him. That instead of sort of being left alone to fend for himself, the group members in here you see sort of almost form like a flying V formation behind him. And it stays that way for a while, and then even when group numbers do split off, they still stick roughly close. I mean, right there, there's still 2 characters running around with him. This, again, something I saw happen a lot, surprisingly. And you would think it would happen with the female, too, because she's a healer and you want to keep a healer close to you, but no. It happened with the male way more than the female. So, again, this was done for 10 battlegrounds total. I alternated. I did 1 female, then 1 male, then 1 female, then 1 male, etc. So I wasn't, getting any better. And if I was applying the skill I was learning to both characters equally as I was playing them. And so the statistics that we're about to get to surprised me a lot. I expected to die a lot more as a female than a male. There I was just showing you how many honor points I mentioned earlier, that I've done a couple battlegrounds with him before the experiment started and had to recalibrate the experiment. So there I was just showing you that yes, I have done a few. So now I'm going to sort of break down how the statistics worked. At the end of every battleground, you get a screen like that that shows you a total count of deaths, and these are all 5 for Jaelia. Damage done, blah blah blah, all that. All we're looking for is deaths in these examples. So I just pulled the numbers from that and then applied them to the genders that I was finding as well. And that's how I got all the numbers for each team, and you can use those numbers as reference to always check the statistics if you want. These are JLS's numbers, throwing them up. Again, there are 5 of these. They represent an individual battleground, so there are 10 total for both characters. All the numbers that you're about to see came from these boards at the end of each battleground. So this is, you can do no more dying at this point. Everyone has died as much as they possibly can. So here are the statistics for me. The total male deaths is Jaelius, surprisingly, 46. I thought there'd be a lot more period for both. Even more surprisingly, the total female deaths for Jaelia were actually lower, 38. And that is quite a bit lower. Now here's the total. You'll see this scattering of dots up by the male and a scattering of dots down by the female. This is telling you that the average death per player was way higher for female than it was for male. This is female deaths by female characters. It's just basically showing you that females don't tend to kill females a lot. This is female deaths by male characters. This is showing you that males do tend to kill females quite a bit. This is male deaths by female characters. It's sort of all over the map. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a trend there. Not anyone that I would stick to firmly. This is male deaths by male characters. Now, I would say there's a trend here. You can see that the dots are sort of escalating to the top right, and I'll explain a little bit more about what I think that means in just a few minutes. This is the breakdown of females. There you can see in the middle, the average deaths are hovering around 9 and 10, with sort of smattering of deaths around, and for male, the average deaths are hovering around 7 to 9, with not much smattering past that. That tells us something very significant, statistically significant rather, easy for me to say, that females do indeed die 1 to 2 times, or females do suffer 1 to 2 additional deaths per battleground than males. So our original thesis is true based on this data, that if you are a female in a battleground, you will probably die, statistically, you will probably die 1 to 2 more times than any given male. And this is over 10 battlegrounds total, so that's 200 players, removing as much statistical problems as I possibly could. The male chart that I told you to keep your eye on, the one that sort of arches up in the top right, also suggests that males tend to kill males a whole lot, which suggests to me a strong level of competition between males. It's almost like they kill the females quickly and get them out of the way and kill them often, but they tend to fight a male. It's not just to kill, it's to actually compete, to fight. So it's almost in that way like females are more of a non-entity, really only there to be killed, to boost your ranks, and then you get to the real game, which is fighting other males, or at least that's what the data suggests to me. In closing, women do tend to die a whole lot more often. But there is this sort of male-on-male violence, which is suggesting more competition amongst males. There are some things I want to acknowledge now that quite possibly threw off the research or skewed it a bit. Both these characters were level 10, which is relatively low. In fact, it's very low compared to the maximum level right now, which is level 85. Another thing that could have thrown him off is there's a lack of a social network to study within. Neither one of these players were in guilds, which means I didn't have friends or comrades going in there with me to help me stay alive. That could have changed the results drastically. My own personal inexperience could have thrown off the results. I don't know a whole lot. The server type is PvE. That could have thrown it off. And the times of day when the research was conducted, was typically late in the afternoon. Not, although it's close to the peak time, it is not exactly the peak time. So all of those things might have indeed thrown the research off. Next time we'll be looking a little bit further in depth into gender roles in World of Warcraft in player versus everyone combat. So until then.